So I think Roswell. No, I don't think I know. Roswell decides to stay in Eridor, helping with the rebuild. Not necessarily like needing to build Romont back up to its final glory, but kind of just helping to restore the land and make it a place that's inhabitable for people. She works to heal and restore those that need it. She asks her parents and the Rirakul that were in Chora if they would like to come to Eridor and find a new home there. Um, Figuring that even though Eridor might be under Empire rule, it would still be new ground for the Rirakul to live in and help move forward. And that's kind of Roswell's, you know, is repairing and moving forward. That's kind of her mission now. In the she brokes to broker a deal between the Empire and the Rirakul. It might not be perfect, but it's a way of moving forward and making amends. In the destruction of the staff, she hopes it will build a bridge to the future. So no longer annihilation and revenge on the mind. It is symbolically destroyed too. The Rirakul settle in Eridor working with the rebuild. Her parents spent a lot of time with her. The lost time that they had kind of fading away. Her parents do just go off on their own little adventures within Eridor. Her father really wants to look at the ruins and do archaeological stuff and kind of get make a history of Eridor. So they go off and do things kind of like weird, like honeymooning, if you will, and then coming back.
Weird honeymooning.
Hey, it's away from me. That's fine. So she also spends a lot of time with Tifrael and Emedrina, learning more about the natural world, and learns to intertwine the divine with the druidic, contributing the efforts to cultivating the land to be green and healthy again. It's hard work, but she can see progress and growth, not destruction and ruin. And if she's allowed to level up one more time, she takes a level in druid to do so. After hey,
Casey says no more leveling.
Always grubbing for a level. So after a few years, she does kind of build a new location for the Brunheldian Order, her order to Istis, the birthing center, a hospice, and the weaving looms. But the weaving looms don't necessarily have the mindset of building like the finest textiles, but ones that are kind of sturdy and useful and utilitarian. Plus, she's got a whole bunch of new weavers on her hands, and they're not that good yet. It's just kind of like providing and repairing and rebuilding. This new life feels good, her path is clearer, and her fate more solidly in focus. So that's what Roswell does.
Excellent. Where was the other Brynhild's sanctuary location that opened up?
I guess it would depend on... Well, I guess people are still settling. It might be outside Roma a little bit. Like, not quite in the city, because the city's probably still being destroyed.
Pretty much all of Eridor was in reasonably bad shape.
Okay. But
not like uninhabitably bad,
yeah.
But like the land has where there were once like a ton of fields, now there's a ton of like marshes, for example.
Sure. I guess where more people would I'm torn between where would it be kind of pretty and tranquil to live, and therefore pull people to live there as kind of like a settlement, and this order is not going to be very big or whatnot. Or is there an area that will be well traveled that would be easy for people to get to? And then 3, I mean, the Hornsby estate has like a lot of like sentimental things, but I feel like that's kind of outside.
It's pretty frontier territory.
Yeah, I don't want to be so remote. So location-wise, I'm fine with wherever.
Okay.
You decide to have it land. But yeah, it needs to be near people. It can't be like isolated because it's there to serve people. So
The ocean, got it.
yeah, exactly, underwater.
Cool. Cool. Very nice. All right, who is next?
I'll go. I just didn't want to be first. Okay, so Akira is not going to stay with the party, but she does tell everyone how grateful she is to have met them and to have fought beside them and to have grown with them. And if you ever need my help, give me a message. Send.
Exactly in those words.
Exactly like that. And then Akira will travel back to her homeland of Shakstraw. First to reunite with my oldest friend, Cynthia, who you've never heard of because I've never talked about her. But she is the woman who taught me the ways of Athena and connected me to my now beloved goddess. And after telling Cynthia about my journey and my future goals of killing Ophix, she tells me of a man I should meet, Sansu. Sansu is an older dragonborn, a former military fighter who, like me, was kicked out of Shakstraw, which I've never talked about ever.
This is like 12-hour mind-blowing Akira revelation.
So, just so everybody appreciates the full gravity of Holly's epilogue, she's introducing new characters here. Continue, please.
Yes. So he, like me, was kicked out of the Shakstraw military, and he now lives alone as a hermit on the outskirts of the volcanic mountains of Shakstraw. And he teaches me how to use my sword, Glimmer. I train every day. I grow stronger until Sansu has no more to teach me. So I leave and I travel all around Dulan. And I am the hand of justice, the instrument of balance. I will end
Jesus
the false
Christ.
beings of the divine, for they are not worthy, and they upset the scales of balance.
Cool. So you guys have met your new BBEG for the next campaign.
So Holly runs around the countryside murdering people because her glowing sword tells her to.
So what's the lifespan of a dragonborn? 2 years after that.
Very nice. Holly originally had written to me, I go kill Ophix. But I was like, no, you don't. It is a good goal, but Ophix is an elusive and dangerous quarry to be
That
targeted.
the DM would like to use for other things.
Yes.
But one day,
she will bring about the end of the world.
One day she will not kill Ophix because that's for player characters.
Yes. Cool. Who next?
I'm waiting for Beth to go. I can't go until Beth
Okay,
goes.
all right. This is gonna be short and sweet, so you haven't got much time to think of anything. So
I don't need to think of anything. I just need to know what you're doing.
Okay, well, Kendra is killing Tebrin.
Okay.
Work off of that.
Good start.
Okay.
The
Beth.
PvP epilogue.
Kendra would try and
I don't think that's yes and.
Kendra would try and find Bim, of course. And after that, regardless of how it went, she would have tried to join the Brimroldy school. Boom. That's it.
interesting.
And once she's denied that, what would she do?
Burn down
whatever-
the Berberaldi
Whatever
school.
she was, she's a child. She's got so many years ahead of her. This isn't the end of her story.
I will amend what I said before. I do have an epilogue for a single character.
It's Bim.
Ooh.
It's Bim.
It's oh god, it's so sad.
But we won't get into that now. We'll crush hearts and minds later.
I unironically cried about this at one point.
Okay, so Dora, now that you've heard what
Deceit.
has happened to Kendra.
So the first thing that Tebrin would have done, which would have happened like basically immediately after the events of the last session, is that Tebrin, and I presume Arisha is still dressed like this, but Tebrin certainly was that he always had this very obviously drow-made armor that he wore, and his armaments were also clearly drow-made. He always looked like he had civilian clothes on underneath it, but like most of his gear was obviously drow militia. And presumably, at least when I designed her, Arisha was the same. She was clearly wearing the uniform that she deserted in. And so the first thing that he does after that battle is over and after he's taken some time to talk to his sister is that both of them take that armor and they go out to one of the like cliffs that overlook the sea outside of Romont and they burn it.
I would burn it as well, considering they hadn't changed their clothing in like 9 years.
It's armor, Kendra.
9 years.
So that would have been the first thing that he would have done. And then from there, I think that he more or less split his time between where Roswell was and where Kendra was. He wasn't like not necessarily like as devoted to the rebuilding of Eridor as Roswell was, but if that was what she was doing, he would have like not been there all the time, but would have contributed to it however he could. Cannot hear you, you're muted.
Stream just crashed.
It's still up for me.
I'm watching it.
Okay, well never
Refresh-
mind. Maybe I
refresh
need
the
to
page.
refresh.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently there was a hiccup.
Okay, never mind. Forget it. You were saying about me?
About little old me.
Little old me.
But yeah, because he like to a certain like he's always been the kind of person where like if somebody he cared about was doing something, he would be willing to contribute to it, but he wasn't necessarily emotionally invested in it. And so even with Eridor, like he was willing to fight for it, but not so much invested in the rebuilding of Eridor. But if Roswell was doing it, then he would have spent time there because he would have wanted to spend time with Roswell. And the same thing with Kendra, like if she went on and like joined the Bremeralde school, like he would have kind of like come through Vesular and like fucked around a bit and hung out with Kendra and tried to teach her how to drink and like be the general bad college influence that everybody needs. And he would have split time like that. He also would have, I think, done a fair amount of traveling with his sister. I kind of imagine that, like, to be perfectly honest, I sincerely doubt that Tebrin dies of old age, because I don't think he ever settles down. I think he keeps adventuring in one form or another. I think it's after a certain point he becomes like he spends more time in his kind of the kind of false identities that he's put together that he goes out and he kind of bards as, where he's not necessarily wearing his own face. He has like a set of, because he had one that he used a couple of times in a campaign, and I think he probably builds up some more as time goes on, where he just like sometimes he shows up and he gives people like cryptic messages, and he generally like kind of fucks around with people, and then you know, with especially like, you know, kind of like little baby adventuring parties, where he'll like kind of troll them for a while, but if they actually need help, he'll like actually like go and help them, and he draws his sword, and it's like, oh fuck, this is a 15th level character.
Oh my god, are you the new Maxavius?
No comment.
Oh god.
So he does that. He travels with his sister. I think that both of them never really, they both left the Drow. Arisha had her reasons for it. Tebrin's reasons were always just basically that his sister had done it. And so I think at some point he probably has to come face to face with his mother, which is not something that I am really, like, it's not something that I can decide, or I have been able to decide how it ends up shaking out.
Which is why for the new campaign, Dora is going to play Tebrin and Arisha's illegitimate adopted step dog.
Step dog.
That's it.
Who somehow is also drow. And not a dog.
Drow dog.
Droutend.
The Drago.
And yeah, I
That's
think
really
the
clever.
other thing that he does is that, and I think he spends quite a few years working on it on and off, is that he does put together like a sort of like a ballad of Eridor, which is like basically a retelling of like the rise or the fall and resurrection of Eridor, that is maybe a little bit heavier on truth than on facts. But I think it's a story that Kroot and Tiff in particular come out looking the best in, and the party doesn't always. I think that he was pretty brutally honest about that element, but it's a ballad, and that he then proceeded to kind of spread in his various
Syphilis.
minstrel guises, as a story about imperfect people fucking up and then trying to fix things. But I think that is a story that he did his best to spread. And then at some point, he probably got in a fight with the wrong person and they killed him.
And it was Orisha.
What about
And it was Orisha.
What
It was
about-
3 Orishas in a trudge.
what about Ciara?
I was gonna ask the same thing.
We're just gonna ignore that.
I can answer that for you if you would like.
Did
Contact
she die?
block.
Was she connected to Orisha?
No. Do you want me to answer it?
No.
Sure.
Yes.
No, I don't.
After returning to Dracoran Empire, Syria is nowhere to be found. No one knows what happened to her, where she went, and is a bit of a mystery.
Okay. Well, in that case, that is something he would have looked for her, not like devoted his life to the quest or anything like that. But
For at least 10 minutes, yeah.
I definitely have to.
He-
Oh, what's that over there?
I know.
I think he's kind of figured at this point that she can kind of take care of herself.
Why am I so
So
zoomed in on the
it's
stream?
more the sort of thing because he would have traveled, like he never would have settled down in the first place. So I think every time he travels someplace new, he asks after her and sees. But if she wants to go do her own thing, he isn't going to chase her down.
I'll fix you, Timur.
I mean, it's my ugly mug you're subjecting to others, so that's your bad.
Yeah, there's just no way to crop it. That's
Better.
it's a little bit better.
Better.
Except it needs to be a little bit, little Cooper Brit. Cool.
What if I can do this? I'll just do this and stretch. That way the clutter can't be seen as much. No. I suppose I'm up, huh?
Yeah.
well-
For any and all of your characters.
I do not have an epilogue for Nomarius. His epilogue was simply that he no longer was a living after one moment and disintegrated and left the world behind to find his soul somewhere in the realms of the gods of good and law, justice and stuff. He's happy there, having forgotten everything from the world and earth. But Mr. Woolsley, which, by the way, has a first name that no one bothered to find out. We'll go searching through initially this broken land, making sure that all the little so the lich empowered 99% of the undead here, but clearly that's not the only way something can become an undead, and certainly the spirits that lay here might be unhappy with how they became dead. So therefore, he will go through the great pains to help rebuild and secure the lands from evil, only taking mercy on a small canine undead that he finds near a tower and takes that aboard his ship. And and by the way, he makes sure that any reward that is offered eventually turns into, okay, fine, we'll give you a ship, because he'll deny everything else. And once having a ship, he's going to start doing what he can to undermine that great Ophix, which is as an NPC untouchable from a narrative standpoint. However, I think as someone who's not very arcane minded or knowledgeable in the ways of dragons, the only way I could think to help fight, combat, or maybe give someone else an advantage would be start those voyages on the ocean where Ophix has found portals. And so braving those dangerous waters, Mr. Woolsley will definitely start traveling all of the continent's seas and into places unknown or undiscovered, or at least not well known or discovered to the people that are part of the main continent and part of the empire, etc. And then having collected quite a bunch of notes, poorly written, about the portals which can be found and what dangers lie in. One day he just sets sail to do the very same thing, and that is the last anyone sees Mr. Woolsley or the ship that he has finally gotten back.
So say we all.
Right. You found the edge. You felt right.
Yeah. Cool.
Hey.
Do we all have closure now? Holly needs to like roll initiative again or something.
Yeah, let's roll for it.
0.
Roll for